unchallenged. This is the most divisive possible way to run a country. If you wanted to make certain that your children would hate each other, you would hold them to different standards, and they certainly would. There is a reason that racial tension is rising in this country. It's by design. But race is not the only dividing line. The coronavirus lockdowns have nothing to do with race, with white or black, thank God. They're probably the only thing in America right now that doesn't. Quarantines are instead scientific. They're purely a matter of public health. That's what they told us, and we believe them. We sat passively as they destroyed our country's economy, as they indicted Americans for trying to make a living. And then the Black Lives Matter riots started, and we learned that it was all fake. The very same officials who threatened us with arrest for going outside urged their own voters to flood the streets. And they did, and no one was punished. How could this happen? It was such a flagrant double standard, not even hidden, right in your face. They didn't try to explain it. They didn't bother to justify it. Why? Anyone familiar with totalitarian regimes can tell you exactly why and what's going on. This is ritual humiliation. Forcing people to accept mistreatment is a time-tested way to subdue them. Of course we're not treating you fairly, they're telling us. You don't deserve fairness. You deserve what you get. That's the message. And after a while, the population accepts this. Some believe it. They blame themselves. That's the goal. But we should never accept it. The promise of absolute equality under the law is all we have. Laws are designed to protect the weak, not the strong. At the moment, the people leading this revolution against our system are strong. That's why they're trying to subvert our laws. If they succeed, there will be nothing to protect the rest of us in this country. We cannot let them do that. In the United States of America, all of us are equal under the law. Period. Say that as loud as you can. J.D. Vance is the author of Hillbilly Elegy. He joins us tonight. J.D., I can't imagine that 1 in 1,000 Americans seeks to divide the population by race. It's the cruelest and the longest lasting sin you could commit, I think, in a country. And yet clearly there are people who are intentionally trying to do that. Why?
Well, I think that you have to ask yourself who benefits from a lot of this tension or a lot of this division. If you think about a business, black-owned or white-owned, that was destroyed in a riot over the last few weeks, who gets richer from that? We know that Amazon has a little bit more market share, and so Jeff Bezos makes a little bit more money. If you think about what prevents new businesses from coming online and competing with those mega corporations that rule our financial world, well, every time a small business gets denied for a loan, every time a small business goes out of business, that's obviously good for the folks who run our corporate culture. And at the end of the day, what are we not talking about right now that we should be talking about? We're not talking about the opioid epidemic, which kills 70,000 people still in this country. We're not talking about concentrated financial power, which is the biggest problem that white and black middle-class Americans face today. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is creating an entire narrative that's dividing the country instead of actually causing middle and working class people to unify and to try to convince through political means others to share power with them.
Do you think that explanation might explain why the turmoil we're watching has been largely funded by corporate America?
Well, I think that's a huge part of it, Tucker. And one of the weirdest things, people on the left right now act like they're on the side of the oppressed. They like to think that they're standing up for the little guy. They're standing up for working people. But on every single one of these major issues, you look at the big Supreme Court cases that have come down the line the past few days. You look at what's happening with the protests. You look at the actual goals of the protests as they've been stated. Abolish the police. If you look at public policy polling, 70% of black Americans actually like their local police department. How is it that on all of these big debates, the left finds itself on the side of corporate America, finds itself on the side of international businesses? If I was a member of a political movement that stood up for working people and found myself every single time on the side of Amazon, on the side of Apple, on the side of Google, I might ask myself if I've actually chosen the right allies and what it says about me. But unfortunately, too many folks on the left just aren't doing that.
Why are Republicans playing along with this? I mean, they seem to think, I've been thinking about this all day, that this is some kind of policy debate that can be won.
This is what you need to pay attention to.
In the Congress, the people they're arguing against see this as a revolution that will replace our current system with a new one. Why is that a hard concept for elected Republicans to grasp?
Well, if you step back a little bit from our current debates, one of the things that's pretty obvious is that the Republican Party has been for far too long in the pocket of major corporate interests. That's true in the think tank world in D.C. It's true for a lot of major Republican politicians. And I think the Republicans have just so forgotten that there are real economic, real social challenges in this country that need to be solved, that they're comfortable with just doing whatever the mainstream media says that they should be doing instead of actually fighting back in a real and substantive way. Really, the story of the past 30 or 40 years of American politics, unfortunately, is that in their own different ways, the left and the right have both found themselves effectively preaching that they're standing up for the middle class when in reality they're just standing up for corporate interests. And so, unfortunately, I think the answer to your question is Republicans have just gotten used to not solving real problems, to not legislating, to not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing as political leaders. And this is almost the most important point here, Tucker. If you look at the average American, black, white, brown, whatever, they're very sensible. They want common sense solutions. They recognize that something's pretty broken about our current system. It's fundamentally a problem of leadership that we're not talking about the biggest issues that confront us as a country. And so, unfortunately, that falls on Republicans just as much as it does with Democrats.
They're not defending their voters or any American. It's can't last, I would say. J.D. Vance, thank you for your insightful analysis of that.